My name's Eric, and today's presentation is regarding activities, research, and some initiatives around a new lab that we've built at the Kyoto University of Foreign Studies. And so my goal today is not necessarily to put forward a new study, but I'm telling the story of the creation of this particular new laboratory and how it's iterated and evolved through telling the story of 6, 7 different studies that we published through activities in this particular lab. So first I'm going to build some context around the lab, how it was built, why it got started, how it got kind of adopted and supported by my institution, show some projects that kind of inform the evolution and change and progress of the lab and its design, and then forward that with some activities that are currently going on in that laboratory space. And all the while showing these past projects and these new activities, showing off some examples of research and stuff that you can look up afterwards to kind of verify all these things that are going on. So if I go fast today, or if I skip some stuff, everything as far as projects and links is on my website, erichawkinson.com. Right, so I have a bunch of roles. I'm coordinating research for MAVER, Mixed Augmented Virtual Reality in Learning, so that's my main role that is connected to my presentation today. The vocabulary around our field is changing all the time. Apple has helped kind of change that a little bit in recent days, talking about spatial computing, but the research has kind of already established XR as the immersive technology as a category of groups or technologies, plural, that we can kind of house all together. And spatial computing is kind of Apple's vision of that. They can't say the word VR. They're just not allowed to in marketing speak. So now when you come up to somebody on the street, you might hear that term, spatial computing, depending on what ecosystem they're in. Right, so this is all about bringing real life and digital contents and blurring the lines between them, and this is what we're playing with in the lab space and all the initiatives that we're doing there. So we're taking different digital contents that could be now AI, of course, is a big component of that, but cloud edge computing, 3D printing, all that stuff happens around the lab, and we're trying to play with going in and out of virtual worlds or bringing virtual contents into the real world and everything in between. So that's the kind of overall concept that the lab is taking place and what we're doing there. And to do that, I have a range of kind of overall projects that I exemplify each one of these categories, from AR with Reality Labo, VR with our tourism students and a project called My Hometown, mixed reality where we're doing simulations of real world events and places for Model United Nations, and my latest project kind of connecting all together with AI, with the API kind of going in between these things. Right, so the Future Hub is the name of the space. It's housed at the Kyoto University of Foreign Studies. It's not necessarily the official name of the lab. The official name is called MICO, which was the name of the previous lab that was there before. We're going to show you a picture of that and how it got started in just a moment. But all of these, the story that I'm telling today in this presentation is those 6 or 7 different research papers published, and they've all been put through this lab or got data collected in this lab or design around components of this lab. So this is not the lab how it used to look, but it looked a lot like this. This is another lab, a call lab we have on campus. It looked very much like this. The computers were starting to get a little bit outdated. It wasn't used during the pandemic, and we also, through polling our students, found a massive increase in bringing your own devices to campus. So the amount of students bringing their own laptops to campus grew twofold over the course of the pandemic. So we converted one of these spaces into, I got permission to convert one of these spaces into an experimental space to use augmented virtual reality. And so now the space kind of looks like this. So there's a lot of open area, there's movable couches and furnitures and chairs, and so what used to be just rows of desks with computers now is kind of like this quasi-open space, movable screens, laptops in the corner, headsets in another corner, and some other kind of AR, VR devices around to experiment with other kind of stuff that we're doing in this space. We've got 3D printers there, got some VR headsets, various kinds of them, some esports laptops for our gaming, and the central component is this projection mapping half dome called the U Theater. And this particular installation, I had to kind of design from scratch, trying to design this over 5-6 years and asking for funds from perhaps Kakenghi and internal grants. It's just, you can buy these things already pre-made, but it's absorbently expensive. One quote I got from a company in England was going to be 100,000 euros, 100,000 pounds for a 360 dome space. So we had to make it, design it ourselves. And so the centerpiece in one of the corners, this is us putting together that particular display. So it's 5 meters in diameter. It's using 3 short throw projectors with projection mapping with a combination of gaming software, flight simulation software, and some other projection mapping tools to blend and warp the image onto this. And the whole idea is to be able to view and use VR content in small groups while being face-to-face. So if you put on a VR headset, you're kind of closing yourself off to the possible people in the room. So the whole idea of having a lab space like this is being able to perhaps take a small group of students and go on a virtual field trip together, or get into a metaverse situation where some people are represented by avatars and some people are there in real life and they're somehow able to interact with one another. And that's some of the experiments we're doing recently. And so this is kind of a flyby of one of the open campuses we had. So you can see we have to kind of mark out some places on the floor with tape. One of my fans there. For the VR headsets. And so we have different kind of rooms in there there's a digital twin of this, so you can go into these other rooms and experience them in digital form as an avatar and in real life. And so we have different activities around that. So one of the selling points to get this space is to, as a university, to get their buy-in was to use it as a space to help recruit students. And that was one of the ways that they really got on board and started to fund it a little bit more. All right, so speaking of VR, one of the projects that really lent to the design of that especially that U Theater space is a project called My Hometown. I think some of you are very familiar with it. One of my co-authors is in the room that wrote one iteration of this particular research. Right, so as a prompt, as I go through some of these studies, to kind of think about how this is best leveraged, how this is best designed, we think about some of these questions to help you kind of move along with me on this journey. So will virtual reality motivate us to travel more or less? So we have a Department of Global Tourism at the Kyoto University of Foreign Studies, and they are required now to take a specific course called Immersive Tourism Workshop, Immersive Technology Workshop if you're not in it's the same course but a different name for students that are not in tourism. And so they learn about immersive technology, its use, some case uses in different fields, most importantly tourism industry, hospitality industry, and they create their own virtual tour of their hometown. And now we have approximately 500, between 400 and 500 tours in this database, and now we're able to ask or have students visit all these places that all these students have been. So in that, you can imagine now with the new version of this, students are taking virtual trips to each other's hometowns in small groups in this lab space. So the first version of it looked a little bit like this. This is in 2018. We're using Google Tour Creator and Google Expeditions at this time. And so students were using Google Cardboard as well. All of this is kind of not around anymore, so you can't even really do this anymore. So this is kind of like the really low-tech version. So this is a demo of, this is like me having an iPad and saying, look over here, this is a street where I grew up kind of thing, and students are taking a tour along with me. And so this first iteration, students are creating a tour of their hometown in Google Tour Creator and using expeditions to take small groups of students with them to their hometowns. So they get into small groups and then they guide each other through their hometowns. A lot of great things came about this research. One of my co-authors is here. Like the rapport building is amazing with this, right? So if you just take a student giving a presentation of their hometown, they're like, this is my hometown, they're pointing at the screen. It's detached from them, but their language changes in this setting. So like, welcome to my hometown, let's go here. Like, right, if there's a different kind of feeling, a different action to their wordage. So, and the students report feeling, because it's a little bit of an intimate act, right, to go visit somebody's hometown and see their house, right? So the empathy building, the team building, the rapport building is quite amazing with it. And so now that we have this, when we went online for the pandemic, we had to switch completely online, so I built this whole kind of database sharing system. So now this became asynchronous type learning. And so now you can feel that tour from students that are international students. So we have tours from Italy and all over Asia and places like that. Lex actually has a tour in the database.
Amazing storytelling experience.
So this one kind of got, this is during the pandemic, so they kind of leveled up. We're using Frame VR now, and this became kind of a persistent tour museum online. So students are creating a poster that represents their hometown, and they're putting it up in this space for the whole classroom. They're going around, and if you touch or click on the poster, then you get sent to that hometown. So you can, this is kind of like a jumping off point for the entire collection. This kind of got heavy, and the amount of tours kept going up year after year. So when we came back after the pandemic into the classroom, now we're using a customized database that I kind of built from scratch for this purpose. And we're doing a hybrid situation, trying to take the best of both worlds, where we have some online coursework, but we also get into the lab, which I've just shared, to actually have some face-to-face time and take the tours together. This is an example of some of those tours that the students have created.
Welcome to my hometown of Chile, Kyoto.
Welcome to my hometown. My hometown was connected. Something street,
Indonesia.
Welcome to my hometown, Malacca, Malaysia. Welcome to my hometown, Uzi City.
My hometown, University in Palembang, Sumatera.
Welcome to my hometown.
This is Hill Station Shrine. My hometown is Moriyama City, Sulawesi Prefecture.
So this actually became a TED Talk, and you can see some of those tours on that particular TED Talk as well. So what looked like this, 2018, is now turned into this just last year. So now we've leveled this up and tried to approach it even more integrated into the tourism curriculum. So as this lab kind of progresses, it gets more customized and integrated into what the students are studying. So now the students have already made their hometown tours, and now they're doing tour business simulations. And so they get assigned a place in Kyoto. Kyoto has an tourism situation happening right now, so the city is trying to encourage people to visit places that are a little off the path. There's a concentration issue. A lot of people going to the same place at the same time. So they get assigned a place a little bit out of the way. They get into groups, and they have to come up with an itinerary, a business plan, a budget, and some other concepts around hopefully making a sustainable tour business. And so now they're coming into this space and simulating that tour. And so they'll have a group of other students, and they'll come in and they'll pretend they're getting together at Kyoto Station, and there's a button on here. They're like, now we'll take the train, and so they all kind of pretend they're sitting in a train, and there's like a video of a train going down the track, and they'll have to try to figure out what do they want to say while they're on the train. And the latest version of this, I used ChatGPT to come up with some prompts into impromptu things that happen as guests. So a guest will have to, in the middle of it, have an injury or lose an item or have an allergic reaction to a food or have a complaint. And so they have to deal with some of these things as a tour guide. Somebody's allergic in the audience. So it becomes an overall simulation. So after this is done, they poll the guests, the tour guests, and question them, and then they use that in a report to figure out if this is something that might be a viable business. This happens already in the tourism industry, something called monitor tours, where they offer free or discounted tours to locations, and they have people that are trying to develop some sort of tour or some destination tourism. So this is kind of like turned into kind of a simulation example to kind of kickstart that whole process. So it's really hitting a lot of pedagogical points for these particular students for these simulations. Just recently went to Italy to do a workshop with some of my students there. And a couple of publications related to that particular project, and one of my co-authors is right here. All right, so that was virtual reality. Now let's move over to augmented reality. So we're trying to integrate all these things into the lab, and the design of that space really kind of, it's informed by each one of these types of technologies in this category of immersive technology. So Reality Labo, it started as a Kaken grant in 2014, where I was to make some augmented reality enhanced English language textbooks. I contracted with a company, a German company, to help me develop the materials and the software. Right after I won the grant, that company signed an NDA because they got bought by Apple. They wouldn't even talk to me. And so I had to get an extension, and I ended up never wanting to be a developer, but this kind of started me down this road of develop my own stuff. And that's another reason why the My Hometown project is a whole ground up stuff, because Google disappeared and the next thing happened. And so even though it's a pain and it takes a lot of extra work, it's just almost become necessary to have your own kind of platforms, especially in this space where everything's moving so fast and companies are spinning up and starting up, but maybe not being able to stand the test of time. We just saw that with the exit of Mozilla Hubs and Glue and a few other VR products that are now disappeared. So what would we want to do? So the prompt for this one. So if we're going to go into simulation with VR, what we're going to do with AR is we're going to bring digital items with us in the real world. Think like a Pikachu running around in Pokemon Go. So now we're talking with students, and we're using this in a class called Gamified Experience Design, where students are learning basic game design theory and concepts, and putting that into use in everyday kind of business marketing situations. So gamification in business and marketing situations as well. So in this particular platform, there's a set of playing cards. And these playing cards, you can just connect anything digital to them. And then after you scan it with the card, it could be a hologram, it could be a 3D model, it could be a video. And then you can throw it on the floor, for example, or put it on the wall. So we're playing with connecting anything digital to anything real. And so what students are doing in this particular class is making prototypes of gamified kind of experiences on campus. So location-based gaming. So you might think like a Pokemon Go, or geocaching is also a very popular thing in Japan, where you, all over the world really, where you have a set of GPS coordinates and you go and you try and find a particular cache, it's called. And so it's a good way for the students. We learn some basic elements of game design, and then they put them to use in a particular project using the app. And we're doing that in the lab because we have posters of these cards, both hidden and on the wall. So they're already there in physical locations to have the students use them. And so one of the other projects we've done with this as well is called the BIG project, Before I Graduate. So students, this is inspired by Candy Chang. It's a TED Talk, Before I Die. She's taking abandoned houses that were left abandoned from, thank you, from the Hurricane Katrina, and people are writing messages on them. So what I did is I used this app to make a wall and you're writing a wish, something you'd like to accomplish before you graduate, and then attaching a testimonial video to that wall. And so the wall has disappeared, but now the lab space has, for example, here is a card, they're movable stanchions, so students are making kind of gamified tours or kind of escape room type games using this kind of material. So they're leveraging their new skills and knowledge about game design and game elements and putting them to work using the augmented reality in this lab space. So the particular project is called Hollow Hunters, and they're following along. This is also kind of hybrid since the pandemic. We went online, and now we're kind of doing things half online, half in the lab. So students come in after going through a Moodle course in small groups, and they play each other's games towards the end of the semester. So there's a couple of papers about that particular project. Digital twins. My daughter is in Minecraft and Legos together. And the next kind of case use, I partnered up with Angus McGregor, and he runs the Model United Nations. And so we created a digital twin of the Security Council chamber in New York City. Is it New York? Yes. Next to the Hudson River, I believe. And so they're doing a simulation in real time in the U Theater space. Some of them are physically there, some of them are online, some of them are actually over here in the corner, we'll see in just a second. They're in virtual reality, and some students are at a distance with PCs. And so the whole idea of this latest experiment is trying to suss out the design, the activities, to get people inside of VR as avatars, integrating, collaborating with people in real time. And there's a lot of interesting things happened with the use of this space. Like the people that are into VR really wanted to do VR, and then halfway through the simulation, like, oh, I just want to go sit next to these people because they're in real life. So here's what it looks like, the digital twin. So the people are there in avatars, and they can see each other on the screens inside, and some papers written about that particular one. And you can try these by yourself or at home. So the My Hometown Project, Reality Labo, and the digital twin of the Security Council chamber are all available right now, so you can try those out by yourself. We're also using this space for our group, our research group of different collaborations. So we're doing a bunch of different research projects using this space and some events related to it as well. And so each step along the way, augmented reality, virtual reality, artificial intelligence, has informed different kind of sections of this particular lab space, and over time has gotten more buy-in from the institution and gotten more integrated into the overall curriculum of the classes that are offered there. This is our last publication there, and here is some of the coursework that our university is doing that's utilizing this space now with our new curriculum that just started this year. Digital media and talking about how to create digital worlds. Used to be just a videography and photography course. Now they're actually making kind of digital contents for VR and AR. Immersive technology workshop where they're doing the My Hometown. The esports where they're thinking about esports but also as a career in tourism. So in that space we're doing things like video production and live streaming and other things that are related to the esports industry. And probably my favorite new class to teach, and I designed, it's going to be taught by a couple of other professors though, is digital citizenship and engagement, where we're talking about the future of these technologies, how it'll integrate with society, how we need new laws around privacy, data collection, things like your mental and physical health related to these tools, and thinking about the future where these new generation of decision makers will have to grapple with these new things coming around the corner. So I'm very proud and happy my institution adopted this particular coursework. Now, next step, we're creating a digital twin of this actual space. And so in the next coming years, my vision is to have avatars coming to the digital version of this lab and being represented through pass-through AR. So you'll be standing next to an avatar in real time, in real space. And so we're going to be moving towards this probably in the next 5 years or so, where you're in the space, you'll come as a hologram or an avatar, and you'll be standing next to one either in virtual reality, and then see that avatar, as it were, walking around with you in the space. And so the digital twin is the first step to that process that we're working towards. If you liked what you saw today, thank you. My time's up. I'll just say that we have a couple of events coming up. Tomorrow, tourism. It's September 7th in this particular lab. So we're talking about the next generation of the tourism hospitality industry, and World Learning Lab, Immersive Learning Labs. I co-host with Sir Rob. I caught that from him. So it's a research event where we get together. We usually have a theme, and we are showing off our research, but more importantly, we're co-creating research during the process, kind of a flipped approach to doing research. We get together and talk about something at the conference, and that springboards a new publication. All right, I just told you about that one. Again, thanks for listening. I'm Eric. Is the next presenter here? So,
yeah, there's
supposed to be one next.
4:30.
Okay.
Can I ask a question though?
Yeah.
Yeah, I found the last slide really cool.
Which one?
You did the digital twin through Luma, right?
Yeah.
Is that Luma?
Yes, Luma. This one?
How long did it take for you to kind of, was it like as clean as that when you generated it? Was it as clean as that? Or did you do some cleaning before?
Actually, I didn't make this one. Manabu Nakahara,
So it's them,
he made this one. So
do you know how long it took him?
he said it just took a couple of minutes.
Really? Great.
This is 3D scanning and then.
So yeah, it's using Gaussian splat technology. So you basically you'll take a video and you need to walk around the space a little. No, don't need it.
Luma is only compatible with Apple, so it was probably taken using a phone like iPhone.
So so you can do it two different ways. So you can actually kind of move around this space, but as soon as you get too far off where the video wasn't taken, the Gaussian splatting looks a little weird, so you can only move around a certain area. Or you can conversely walk around an object and go kind of like an outside-in approach. And so you can walk around an object and it does the Gaussian splatting from all the sides. But if you look the other way, it's going to look very strange, so you have to kind of focus in. So it's not exactly perfect, but it's a really quick, easy way to get a point cloud and a virtual environment that you can use, and walk around at least like a small area.
You can convert that into frame, right? So people can actually walk as an environment. It's a 3D environment.
Yeah. Oh, really? I haven't tried that yet.
Actually, that's what I wanted to do. So this is